Hello, everybody. This is John Bowler with another fun-filled episode of Pro Wrestling Tonight. And with me, all the way across the pond in the United Kingdom, the man, the myth, the legend himself, my good friend, and soon he will be all of yours, Mr. John Scott of Power 4 TV. John, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, John, and thank you very much for inviting me on your show. It's an absolute pleasure when you asked me to come on here. And obviously, you say the man, you say the myth, but I'm wearing, supposedly, arguably, I'm told, across this side of the pond, a very, very popular T-shirt right now that was seen on AEW, I believe, and is selling like hotcakes. And that is, of course, the Chicago Connection. So I'm in my top. I'm happy. As I'm sure you guys are happy. But I wanted to make a point of what I'm wearing here. Obviously, everyone can see it, but this is selling hot. My top now, John, has probably gone up in value. That's the thing. That's what I'm saying here. Not many times you get something and it'll go up in value. But I'm kind of thinking, should I keep this safe? Should I keep this more limited edition?
Yeah, I think you probably keep that as a limited edition. I think it'd be a smarter thing. Once it goes up in value even more, you sell it on eBay.
Exactly. I would never do anything like that, John. Don't put words in my mouth.
So, John, let's get down to the basics of who is John Scott. So, when you started out in the wrestling business, you started out in the late 90s.
Well, early 2000s is probably when I got my foot in the door with a few of our promotions in the UK, and as we said off air, we were having a discussion about how wrestling was back then. And I know you've been on my show and we've also had these discussions. But yes, wrestling, even in the early 2000s, was very protected. So to get into this industry, this crazy industry of professional wrestling, you had to kind of have a great deal of respect, a lot of patience and motivation, self-motivation to want to stick around, because there wasn't a lot pulling you in. It was something you really had to go out and find yourself back then, especially in the UK, because at that time you're looking at FWA, All-Star Wrestling and WAW at best as the main promotions. We didn't have a promotion on your doorstep back then, so it meant you had to travel quite some distance to do it. Fortunately, I don't live that far from London, so that was always a good thing. But yeah, that was my taste into it. I did a few tours with the notorious Johnny Storm, who still looks the same today.
Yeah, he hasn't aged at all.
He never seems to age, and believe it or not, he's grown his hair back. He has grown his hair back, I'm told, because he's getting married soon. And he said, I've got to have some hair. And I think a lot of people thought, can he still grow hair? He can. Because, of course, people remember he had the long hair. And then for many, many years, he's had it shaved. And, yeah, he's grown some hair back. And he lives quite local to where I am. But he's a great guy. He kind of got me in as well into this crazy world. And, yeah, all kind of took off from there.
Yeah, and you started out with, if I'm correct, the FWA promotion.
Yeah.
So what was that like? At one time, that was considered the biggest promotion in England next to, All-Star Wrestling from Brian Dixon, of course, a legendary promoter of the United Kingdom. But FWA was this beast of a promotion that became this international sensation with their work with Ring of Honor, their work with other companies like TNA. So what was that like, just being under those lights working with that company?
Yes, it was a crazy time because, again, everything was moving so fast. We had basically how it really started for the FWS. We had obviously we've got TalkSport, which is a national sports radio, and a couple of their guys that were working at the FWA had airtime every Saturday night, like a really good slot, I think 8 p.m. For an hour. And the most of the talk was WWE, WF at the time. But they'd always 20 minutes towards the end start talking about FWA. And I was always scratching my head like, what the hell are they talking about? Who is this? And between TalkSport, there was a radio host called Tommy Boyd, and they basically worked together and they put on a show called Revival, which is where they basically christened Jodie Fleisch. When you hear the King of England phrase, that was where it was all done. It was Jodie Fleisch and Doug Williams. Eddie Guerrero was on that card. He was kind of just out of WWF at the time on one of his hiatuses, and I think Brian Christopher was over. And it was a great show. I think it got on like one of the TV channels, not a big channel, but it was like the first time we'd ever seen wrestling, probably since World of Sport. I mean, you're talking about 15 years, and this was the first time. So it was a big deal. And yeah, everything moved really fast. Of course, we had the likes of Doug Williams, who still is ever present today, just an amazing performer. Johnny Storm, Jodie Fleisch, James Ty. You probably haven't heard those names, but just a real array of amazing talent like Paul Burchill. And they went on. They basically went as far as Coventry Sky Dome, which was British Uprising 3, and I think that was kind of the mecca. That was like the big mountain, and that was like the peak for them. And then unfortunately, for whatever reason, it just kind of took a real drift out business-wise. And then it just kind of spiraled away for a little while. And then, of course, we had another promotion come along called 1PW, which it was very much a lot of American imports came in. We had the likes of AJ Styles and CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, just to name drop a few, but they were all coming in, and really we didn't hold on to too much of the British wrestlers. There was only the few. There was Doug Williams that had sort of managed to get in, Johnny Storm, but obviously we'd lost our identity a little bit. So it was kind of like, it was a cool thing for the fans, because these guys were selling 3,000 venues out like every 2 months, which was pretty cool. They had like DVDs being sold in shops that you could walk into and actually buy it. It was like, oh my God, this is different. And then that sort of phased out as well. And then there was like a revamp of the FWA that I got involved with at a completely different level, more on with a kind of booking hat on. And it was kind of a revamp between the years of 2009 to about 2012. And that kind of took on a whole world of its own. The guys that were there at the time was like the Rockstar Spud, that you see him now. Obviously, Drake Maverick. We had RJ Singh. I mean, lots of guys that would kind of go on and be quite big influences in this scene and across the pond as well. And then I kind of took a big break after that, because I just kind of was done with wrestling after 2012. I had about a year off, a couple of years maybe, and I just fell out of love with wrestling for a while. And then I think it was like 2014, somebody said, "Oh, let's do a podcast. Let's just talk about WWE." And I thought, I don't know if I can go back into this. It was a real, like, I got to see, because it was alien to me at this point. The product had changed. And then someone said, like, "Oh, you should start going to your local events. Like, there's some local stuff around you." I was like, "Really?" I was like, "I've not heard of this stuff." Anyway, I started going to these very small venues and realized there's this huge marketplace of just independent British wrestling going on. Just like literally, instead of traveling all the way into London, this stuff's on my doorstep, like 10 minutes away. It's very regular. And it's almost like a territory system, because everybody's got their own thing in what area you're in. For the most part, though, they're all the same wrestlers, so we're always seeing the same people. But yeah, that's kind of like the short and narrow side of my journey within the crazy world of professional wrestling, John. And obviously a lot of changes over all that time, but never have I known a time than where we're at now, of course, with all the technological miracles that we're in, where you can just basically pick up a remote and just, okay, I want to watch such and such just down the road. I now have the capabilities of doing that, whereas before I just never would have heard of some of these places.
Yeah, it's amazing from the time period when me and you was in this wrestling business when we first broke in, when everything was still on VHS tapes, and then when
Right, I
DVDs started
miss
becoming
those.
popular, you still had tape traders, who had to send you
Yeah.
in stuff, and now it's just you go on the website, you can type in someone's name, and literally YouTube, you have social media of so many different branches of social media, and then now you got like all these different websites that streams programs, shows. So literally, someone who's local who doesn't have more than 100 people in their crowd can still reach thousands of people across the pond. And it's amazing to see what technology has brought to the world of wrestling and
Mm,
brought to the world of media as
mm.
well. Speaking of media and the world of streaming platforms, the company that you're working mostly with, Powered 4 TV, what is the website so our viewers can actually check out Powered 4?
Sure. So it's powered4.tv. It's as simple as that. Powered4.tv. Yeah, you can go on there and check that. Before I just talked about them, John. When you was mentioning about VHS and finding that stuff, man, magazines. That's what I
Yeah.
miss the most. I
Oh,
miss
I
my
do too.
magazines.
I do too.
I miss going to my shop and like just getting a magazine and finding about something new about somebody that you wouldn't necessarily ever get the chance to do. And of course, depending on sometimes the writer or whoever it is who's the editor, like you might get a biased kind of version of the wrestler, and then all of a sudden you see him on one of those trading tapes, and you're like, hang on a minute, he's 10 times better than what I've been reading about, but it was
Yeah.
kind of like political back then on who gets the rub. I'm sure there was some money exchanged, but yeah, I miss those days. I really do. I like you say, everything is so royally easy. I mean, I suppose back in the day, I would have only have wished for something like we've got now. The fact you can just, as you say, go online and you want to know about an independent wrestler, no problem. There'll be something that you can find out. That's for sure. There'll be some sort of interview clip, or a match, detailing everything. It's crazy. Whereas, again, back in our time, you had to wait for this stuff. You literally had to wait, and you'd be lucky to actually even see a match with the particular person that you're reading about. But yeah, those are the days I miss, John.
Me
I know
too.
there are magazines today, but it doesn't quite have the same. I suppose it's just a completely different context of why you're getting a magazine, because again, there's so much information out there already. It must be very difficult. I used to be a big fan of Power Slam in this country, who were operating for many years, but also like I used to get all the American imports as well. I used to love all the PWIs and Wrestle America, I think was another I used to get. And yeah, they all had something very unique about them. Like, you wouldn't necessarily, even though there were like 18, 20 different magazines, they were like very different from each other, depending on who you read. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
there's me going off in a tangent there, living
No,
out
no, no.
my nostalgia childhood, John.
My two favorite magazines outside of PWI was The Wrestler, and then later
Yes,
on in the late 90s, early 2000s, the legendary Bill Apter, which to me is like the journalist in
yes,
wrestling.
absolutely,
Always will be. He's the
absolutely.
godfather. Bill Apter
Hmm.
created Wow Magazine, which was, in my
Yes.
opinion, the best put together wrestling magazine out there, because not only did you
Hmm.
get what's going on in the United States, you got to see what's going on in Mexico, England, Japan,
Hmm.
all of Europe,
Yep.
and they really covered wrestling like a sport. It was very much uh, we're not doing this to poke fun at the business. We're not doing this as a way
Hmm.
of dogging somebody. It was
A lot of it was
uh,
kayfabe, right? A lot of it,
very, yeah. Well, that's what I
that
love
you
about
read. Yeah,
After still to this day will try
yeah.
to continue
It's,
on with someone's character and not, oh hey, like, you're really
got
a
to
nice
appreciate
guy
that.
when he's a villain. Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
So
yeah,
yeah, Wow Magazine
yeah.
was me and my wife will still talk about that on this very day. We'll talk about Wow magazines. Uh,
Yeah,
so yeah, we were originally we were talking about a little bit about Powered 4 TV, the
sure.
website you gave to us. You're gonna give that one more time for our fans and all. The
So
website.
it's powered4.tv, powered4.tv. Go on, check it out. And basically, what we are is a wrestling streaming platform for many different wrestling independent, mainly based in the UK, but of course we've got yourselves, the great Chicagoland Championship Wrestling, yours truly in front of me there, which has been a a really big success, as you know, with our audience, just appreciating that studio modern day production vibe that you guys have done. I think it's kind of helped us because, as we said off air, obviously we've had a pandemic. We started Powered 4 right in the middle of it last June. And most people said I was crazy for starting a business then, but we had a lot of time to prepare. And of course, we only had about 4 to 5 shows come in about 8 months, which was you guys included. And it was one of our big draws. You know, people wanted to come on and check out Chicagoland, what it was all about. I personally, as a fan, loved it. As you know, I fell in love with it very early on. It wasn't like I had to go on there and pretend to like something or try and sell it to somebody with that hat on, because it was just very easy. I got so, I suppose the word is just, I kind of took my analytic hat off of watching a product and just lost myself a little bit watching the show because it was that good to me. And I always say to people, even now, I saw some guys the other day on the independent scene. I say it's like you're watching a match where both guys, there's not too much of cooperation as in there is more I want to win. And the fans, I felt like, always come across like that at your shows. They always like it's about who wins rather than is it going to be a 5-star match? Are they going to do the high spots? Are we going to see him do his signature move here? It's more about I want my guy to win and beat the other guy. And I really appreciate that, especially in this day and age. I didn't think there was much out there that could still do it. So that really fell in love with Chicagoland Championship Wrestling, just to put you guys over, as you know, John. But obviously, we have a huge amount of promotions, one including TNT Extreme Wrestling, which is one of our biggest ones that we've got in the UK. I would say now that, you know, not with my biased hat on, but they're probably like sitting at number 3 in the UK behind promotions like Progress and Rev Pro. They're really up there in terms of what they can put on. You know, Jay Apter, the promoter, is a really good, young, enthusiastic promoter who does amazing cards. Like some of the matches I didn't know existed until I'd gone back in their archive and seen some of them, but they're very good at putting on great shows for their fans. Liverpool based, so they've got like their own hub right there. And you know, he does like two shows a month at least. He has a family show and then he has the adult show. And it's very regular. Like for us in the UK, it's not heard of to have a consistent show going as much as that is. So we're very happy with them. Obviously, I mentioned 1PW earlier, and we've got all their archive as well. You'll get some wonderful matches, like especially if people are in today, you know, like Brian Danielson. But the great thing with 1PW, I don't know how the hell he managed to do it, but they managed to have Ring of Honor and TNA, Noah, New Japan all together. Yeah. With the UK scene as well. Like you probably would never get that sort of cooperation again. They used to bring their belts over and there wasn't too much political stuff with who's got to win and protect my guy against theirs, that kind of thing. It was very much left to whatever 1PW wanted to do. And it made for a very fun card to go and watch. So we've got all of that as well. Then we've got other fantastic promotions like DNA Pro Wrestling, who I know you guys are affiliated with as well as a partnership. Yes. Really good promotion, up and coming. There's another show called Ignite Wrestling, which if you go onto powered4.tv now, you do not have to. I mean, you can literally watch it for free. That's how good it is. The opportunity to watch what I would call, it's almost like a TV show, because there's a beginning and there's an end. And very rarely do you watch a promotion like that. Like sometimes the promotion, it gets to a point, and if they're not in existence now, it's probably because they've made some bad business moves and they've just gone. But this one, they actually knew where they were going to, and they knew that was going to be the end. So it's like watching a TV show, and you can binge watch it. It's like watching 10 episodes on Netflix, and you kind of get rewarded for it. You get rewarded because the narrative, the story arcs are kind of all there for it. It's very, very well shot, like you guys. It's probably the next best. Ignite Wrestling, big shout out to them. great stuff. There's also another Ignite Wrestling as well from Florida.
Yes,
You
yeah,
know, they're
Kim,
with us
who
as
runs it.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Amazing, talented promoter as well, with all our stuff. But yeah, I mean, overall, look, there's a lot there. There's like 28 promotions. I would love to go through them all, but you know, I will be here all night singing singing of all their praises. But along with that, of course, we have like various media outlets as well. Some of our partners like Sportskeeda Wrestling, True Hill Heat. You know, you guys with the podcasts and everything in between. That's also there, and Powered for as well. We kind of have like a built-in media team, so it's like our own content that we have on YouTube, which we cover various things like MMA and boxing, and also like a weekly show just on just general stuff in wrestling. But with the shows coming back, and I can give this to you as a little drop here for this one, but we're going to be coming back with a show called The Cut, which is something I had in mind when I first created Powered4.tv, and it basically means everything that we have on that half-hour show is all going to be kayfabe. It's no kind of like, let's analyze it and review it like everyone seems to do. It's very much keeping in tradition with the old school, I guess. And I really love doing that. And I love having guys come on in and being them who they are in the ring. I kind of feel like there's still something to be said for that. I've had a lot of promoters disagree with me and say you can never do that anymore, and you'd be kind of like kidding the fans. But I think if you want to enjoy the product, I think the product ultimately is what you're going to pay and see as a fan. You know, you're going to pay your money and sit there. I think people want to suspend their disbelief just for those couple of hours, and
Yes.
you know, whatever else happens after that, fine. You know, like talk about it like however you want. But I think for that time, I don't think we're in an era where, thankfully, we're not going to a show, John, where they're like, hang on a minute, you get two guys in the ring, like, hang on a minute, we're just going to sort out what we're going to do. You can watch how we're going to work it out and video us, and then we're going to, you know, we're not at that position yet, which I'm grateful for. So I still think wrestling, I'm a little bit of an old school, as probably you are as well, John. Even though I do the media stuff, I'm very much, I'd still rather interview somebody in character, if that makes sense. I do not want to hear, I'm not one of these people that likes clickbait stuff. I don't want to hear about all the juicy gossip and what she said, he said. I'm just never been interested in that. So I'm really happy to have this show coming on. And it's basically guys like yourself. We're going to basically just be promoting all the shows, what's happening in storylines, etc., etc. But yeah, it should be really good. Should be a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, and I think that's the best way to do it, because I mean, not trying to break down the fourth wall, but this is the way I always look at it. When people are like, "Oh, I mean, how dare they insult our intelligence?" I'm like, okay, let me ask you this: if you go to a
watch a movie,
yeah, if you go to a movie, let's use Die Hard for example. The villain in Die Hard was one of the best movie villains of all time. Now, in real life, he's probably the nicest guy anyone could ever met. But as a villain, you wanted to see him get thrown off the building. You wanted to see him get his comeuppance. Wrestling's the same way. Boxing's even like that. And you watch boxing or MMA. You know, Floyd Mayweather would talk major garbage to everybody that he fights, and people want to see Floyd Mayweather get knocked out. Conor McGregor has made a living off of being a heel. The Paul brothers, Jake and Logan Paul, are characters. In real life, they're nice guys, believe it or not. In real life, they're nice guys, but as characters, they know, all right, if we get under people's skin, we get people upset and angry, they'll pay money to see us get knocked out, or at least try to get knocked out. And this is the same mindset. So yeah, I laugh when I think about people getting so offended by it.
I think I'm with you. I think that, like, I had this discussion many times. I think boxing and MMA do wrestling better than wrestling does wrestling today. I really do. I think they've cottoned on. You know, you get these guys like Floyd Mayweather and the Paul brothers, and everyone's like, you know, I want to see this guy beat up. I'm sick of him running his mouth. And they're like, yes, be more like give us more heat, because the more heat they get, they'll pay to watch that. So yeah, MMA, it makes all the sense in the world.
Prime example in MMA, Chael Sonnen. who openly admits that he's a biggest pro wrestling fan ever, and what Chael Sonnen does best outside of fighting, I will get on the microphone and I will rile up everybody in front of me because I know how to get under people's skin. And it's a genius way of performing because that's how people want to be entertained. Anybody says they don't want to be entertained, then why do you go to an event? Do you go there just to judge it, or do you actually really go there secretly because you want to be entertained? People get very cynical. What's the word I want to use? People want to be very judgmental on things that are very simple. And I feel like with pro wrestling, what we give people is you do get a sport with athletic ability, with the toughness and grit that you have to be as a professional wrestler. But you also get a little bit of the theatrics of the good versus evil, or a comical character, or someone that would give you the nightmares at night. And there's different things that just looks really great. And that's what pro wrestling is about. On closing, how can fans get in contact with you, John, or how can other promoters get in contact with you about Powered 4?
Well, we got a contact on our website that you can always get us to, but also we're very much active on all the social media, so you can just go at powered4.tv on Instagram, obviously Facebook, same powered4.tv, and also Twitter. So look, it's been funny because in the last couple of months, we actually have people coming to us, which it's nice because you obviously know you're getting out there a little bit more. You've been spoken about, or somebody's word of mouth kind of thing is getting out there. So we've actually been blessed with people coming to us, and obviously they're always passionate people like yourself, and seeing what we can do for each other. Obviously we want to work with, or we will work with anybody. Obviously, I have a responsibility to my audience, to the fans, that I do have to obviously do some checks. And it would be irresponsible of me not to do stuff like that because, again, it is a business ultimately. But if you got a pass, you got a pass. I mean, it shouldn't stop anybody from having something new or starting something new. It's absolutely fine. But I've said this many a times on different interviews. I'm very fortunate that I have like a very secret, and I can't obviously name names, otherwise I wouldn't have them, but a secret sort of collection of people that have been in the industry for a long time that I can, if I ever feel like I don't know somebody or I don't know a particular promotion, I can always go to, and they're really good. They're great for due diligence, basically. They're my go-to people, and it's but yeah, it doesn't matter what level you're on. We kind of want to help people. I've had somebody come to me recently, and they'd never shot any of their matches before, and we can always, because of our network, we can always put them in touch with people that do that and offer that, and commentators and all the rest of it. So we always want to work with passionate people, but at the same time, people that are professional enough and run professional enough and have policies in place where they should be, safeguarding, because again, a lot of on-demands probably don't necessarily think anything of that, but because we're wrestling people, kind of gives us a head start with it a little bit, because we obviously know the market a little bit better. So yeah, really appreciate you having me on, John, and to anybody that's watching that just wants to go and check it out, I urge you to go on powered4.tv. There's nothing there that is hidden. Even if you don't sign up, you'll see everything that's available, all the promotions, all the archives. You'll see what you're getting, and there's no better time than now, because as I said to you off there, John, we're about to get, I think, up to 16 events within the next 2 months, so plenty of wrestling to keep everybody going, which again, from this time last year, I could have only dreamed of this outcome. So I'm very grateful in that aspect.
I'm grateful for it as well too, John. Thank you for coming on our show tonight, and
you're welcome, my friend.
Looking forward to it, my friend. Thank you for everything you guys at Power 4. For wrestling fans, we'll see each and every one of you at ringside.